So guys, we're going to run through our information. It's going to be a nice conversation Q&A today. We're going to round up on 2024, get the insights and trends from a business perspective from Gerard, and Victoria's going to share her learnings from the industry from a marketing perspective, and then we're going to talk about how we gather all that up and make 2025 as brilliant as it can be. So any questions that you've got, pop them in the questions. We will catch them at the end. If there's anything that really strikes out, Elliot, you give me a shout. We've got our beautiful assistant in the background, Elliot. You shout up and make me look at it, and I'll read that question out as we're going on. So, guys, we are very nearly at the end of 2024. Hasn't it been a year?
Where's it gone?
Well, where's it gone for a start?
Astonishing.
Yeah, absolutely flown by. It just felt like it was busy. Like we were just.
There's like a lot's
on the
happened. There's
go.
a lot's for both us and from a client perspective as well. It feels like a lot of people have been doing a lot of good stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
let's face it, we've had a whole load of stuff. We've also had a new government, and so we've had all of that trauma to have to deal with.
Trauma.
I tell you, you told me not to be cynical when before we came
I
in.
think everyone will agree it's been a bit of a trauma. Okay, so listen, Gerard, we'll start with you because as everyone on here will know that you love the statistics and you follow not only our business progression but our clients' business progression intensively. So what have been your main observations from 2024? If we start, I guess what most of our clients always ask us first and foremost is student acquisition and growing clubs and how can I get more students. So what have been your observations this year from that regard statistically?
It's been interesting over the last couple of years or more, but there has been almost a slight change in the marketplace, whichever way you cut this. You know, for years people were coming to my seminars and we were talking about the seasonal variation in interest in the activity that all of our clients provide. And there were two big points of that, which would be January, February, March, the first quarter, and then the 3 months, September, October, November. But a lull in the middle of the year and around the end of those times. Now, that's got to some extent a slight change. It was always September was the big time, the back to school, because let's face it, 75% of the clients' students are young people. I know we'll have some guys and girls out there running Krav Maga clubs or running special defense self-defense classes for adults and all that sort of thing. But when you look at the client base as a whole, 75% are young people, ranging from about early, just before primary, preschool, you know, up to going to university. And, you know, we saw those two big periods, but there have been some changes in that. One, I think, was caused a few years ago when school holidays changed. So we saw at Easter time, when we always used to have a week off and the kids were at home and all the rest of it. And then again in October, the same sort of thing applied. But when it changed to 2 weeks off, we saw a change. We definitely saw that it was more difficult and you needed more activity and more imagination in your marketing in order to maintain the sort of growth that we saw at previous times. So that has happened. And I suspect for a lot of our clients, they were feeling the same as consumers were. In other words, our clients have children, they have families, they might want to go on holiday in October, they might want to go on holiday in and around Easter time, and we're doing the same things as the consumers were doing. But that's where Victoria and the gang come in, where you've got to start saying to yourselves, that is a time where you still can acquire students, and we should do so. And it requires imagination to do that when the market's a bit lower. So there's a lot to be done there. We've seen that as a change in the marketplace. We've also seen that price has been not only stable, but it continues to rise. Now, from all of our points of view, that's great. From a consumer point of view, it's usually a slightly different story. But what is really interesting, where we've seen price rise during the course of a year, and 2024 is no different than it was the year before, where it rose between £2 and £3 per student and per agreement. So we've had price growth this year, and we haven't had, as many people say, well, when price grows, you see more attrition. That has not been the case. We've not seen it overall. We haven't seen attrition rise. It runs at about between 5.2 and 5.4% per month. And it's very sticky. 25 years ago, it was 6%. So has it taken 25 years then to drop down by 0.75? You know, it is a demonstration of the good service that clients put into their businesses. But that's a sticky number. However, the one I would point out to people is with attrition, we've seen in recent times, I think probably because we've been measuring it more closely rather than a change in the marketplace. But for those customers, students and payers who leave your businesses, just under 30% of them who leave do so in the first 12 weeks or within the first 12 weeks. So that's a real serious issue for the industry, if you'd like to put it that way, and it's something on the induction of students to your business that people should look at. And everyone can see this in the statistics, in the student reports, and you can see exactly what your school is doing in that context. But you put a lot of money, a lot of effort into acquiring students, and then for them to leave before their first grading without starting to realise the major benefits that martial arts can offer is a bit of a tragedy. So we haven't seen that improving this year. We've seen it about the same, although it is fair to say some schools will have a greater level of that and others lesser. And some people have got a real handle on it. So that is a very low number because they have a great induction program, lots of assignments, they know they've got to get people past the first grading. So I think overall, to sum up the year, we've seen these two big times where people take on students and have more difficult times during the summer and at the edges of it where I've just described. And it doesn't have to be like that, however. So Victoria, no doubt, will talk about that, about having your base level of marketing and about trying to be imaginative at the times where the market may be slightly lower, and doesn't mean you have to put up with a low take on of students. So those have been key things this year. Of course, there have been there are always some upsets, and change of government usually makes one of those. And I won't comment on whether that's been negative or positive. It's not for me to do that, but there have been some changes. And of course, recently, from a business perspective, the changes in national insurance have affected many businesses. Will that affect you guys? No, it depends whether you're employing people or if most of your instructors are self-employed and you're self-employed. So that has been a change. So those are key things for me on a statistical front. First of all, there was growth during the year. There's growth in student numbers. Possibly, I think by the time we end up next week, we will see something of order based on us looking it through the prism of Nest, if you like. But our clients will have grown by around, I expect by the end of next week, we'll be looking at 7.5% to 8%, which in itself in most industries would be seen as really good. Some of that is about price, and some of it is about new students and clubs growing. I think there's more to be had, if I'm truly honest with you. And I think that's what we should talk about in 2025.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for that, Gerard. And yeah, I guess I would comment on that and say that I have heard anecdotally from lots of you guys that buying behaviour has changed a bit this year, that there hasn't been strong confidence financially. No one's quite known where they are with mortgage rates and lending rates and borrowing rates, and that has made people more reluctant to spend their money. And we can definitely see that in retail. Restaurants are closing down left, right, and centre. Retail shops are closing down, clothing stores. However, we have seen, as Gerard rightfully says, not only a sticking in the price for martial arts, but a rise in the price of martial arts across the board. And that would imply to us that there is a confidence and a high perception of value in what you guys teach, that people are not only happy to pay what they were paying, but are also happy to pay a little bit more to support you guys and see the value in it. So that's a really good message. We've found that to be quite comforting this year.
I think I've also seen clients do the communication around the price increase really, really well. So a lot of messaging and making sure they're communicating it to those students so that it's not coming as a shock.
Yeah.
And I think when something like that is explained properly and with enough notice, then it can be done and it doesn't come as a shock. And we all know the cost of living is increasing, but that therefore means we know that that's happening for a business as well. So your students do know that your electricity in your venue is going up, and or your hall hire prices are greater. So if you're able to communicate that in a proper way and explain, then it isn't seen as they're just trying to make something more expensive. It's seen as they want to continue to provide a service. And I think as long as the message of that is we want to continue to provide that good service, then people are understanding, and we've seen it in the statistics.
I think we see the clients I talk to, a lot of people over the last 2 or 3 years have been talking about price increases for hall hire. And in some areas of the country, really substantial. Scotland in particular, we have reports of very large hall hire hikes in price, but I suspect that's happening in many parts of the UK.
I think it's probably a result of those halls, probably in the manner that a lot of martial arts club owners have done, have not put their prices up for a long time, and then when their costs are then going up, at some point they have to pass that on. So
I think it's important that people get a grip of that, because I come across clients who may not have touched price for some years and are frightened to do so, because the increases on existing customers they see as a real potential for attrition. However, we haven't seen that statistically. You know, price hikes of relatively reasonable proportions don't see attrition. We did notice at one time, Louisa, I don't know if you remember, but when price hikes went beyond about £5, we used to see in customer service more complaints around that, whereas I haven't come across much of that this year. And certainly the £2 or £3 mark per month has had little impact on attrition, if any at all.
Absolutely.
A small incremental increase, and also maybe doing an annual price review definitely works better than maybe leaving it for 5-6 years and then suddenly have to do that large hike, because that feels a lot harsher than it being done kind of incrementally.
I think there was a really good discussion on the Facebook community as well very recently. Someone was asking about price increases, and rightfully so. Another client responded back and said, we actually did a really big price increase. I think it was between £10 and £15. And although they did have some people cancel, overall financially they were better off because there were more people that stayed than left, and therefore the overall AGV increased. So there is a lot to be said for that. And anyone who wants to do that, we can help.
I know a lot of people ask me, I think because they make an assumption, they ask me, is there a regional difference in price? Probably making the assumption that if you're around London or in the home counties, you would naturally be charging more, probably because your costs are higher. But we don't see that quite as much. We don't have a view of a big regional difference in price, although it is fair to say that there is a huge difference across the whole network of martial artists, ranging from maybe £100 an agreement down to around £25 an agreement. But I think that's more to do with the client's view of the world than it is with the consumers. Now, that may not be true across every region, and some regions are having more difficult times than others. But broadly, we found it very difficult to say this area, this region, this town, or towns that fall into this category have much lower prices. It's more to do with the business and its attitude towards price.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Oh, we do have a question, and I'm really sorry, guys. I'm going to have to lean in because I didn't bring my glasses today. Okay, so Tim has just said I did a price rise in November. Lots of students on old prices, 20 to 25% for approximately 50% of students. Didn't lose many, and overall 8% better off monthly than before. There you go. That's an absolutely perfect example of why it's good to do price increases in a structured, organised, sensitive way.
I think it's also worth bearing in mind as well is that sometimes people don't think about the fact that you can keep your current students on a lower price if you want to reward that loyalty and just do smaller incremental increases, but actually assess the market that's in your area, and for your new students that are coming in, think about what price you're charging those, because there's also a value perception as well. Like, a lot of people will think, oh, cheaper is best, I want to be the cheapest in my area, but it's actually about the value that you're providing. And if you think of it kind of from a supermarket, like, yeah, you might not want to sit in that top premium level, but do you want to be the value one that's on the bottom shelf? Because people then don't compare you favorably. So it's about knowing your own value and making sure that you're communicating that and getting the most of your service, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess, Victoria, while we're on that slant with value perception, and Gerald was talking about club growth and getting new students this year, that takes us nicely onto what your experience has been, because this year you've worked a lot with clients, both on a one-to-one basis and on a group basis. So what have been your observations in terms of how has it been hard this year for clients to get students?
I think there's been a lot of curveballs this year. I think there's been a lot of stuff that has changed and things that have worked well in the past and have almost been a kind of set and done and it works is not as effective as it has done, so it has been in the past. So I think where I've seen clients perform really, really well and manage that process really, really well and be increasing those students month on month are the ones that are having consistency. So throughout the year, so in every form of marketing, so making sure that even if it's PPC or Facebook ads or relationships you're building with schools or whatever it is, but making sure that you're doing that wholly throughout the year, that seems to be the thing that's working. That brand recognition is really, really helpful. So being known in that local area, so as soon as somebody thinks, oh, I want an activity for my child, they're thinking of you because they know of you rather than having to search and find you. That consistency has made a big, big impact, because it then leads through into having a good process from when you get a lead into that sign up. So having that process nailed down, and it sounds really, really basic, like, oh, have a decent process from lead to sign up, but I've seen clients make huge differences just from going back and reviewing a process that they've maybe had for a number of years and having a look at that and going, oh, actually, how can I improve that? Can I make sure I'm giving them a call a couple of days before, or sending a video out that gives them a tour of the venue before they get there? And it's all these little things. People are very busy and have got busy minds and busy lives, so anything that you can do to bring yourself to the forefront of that is all going to help. Like, marketing's a mind game, effectively. You're trying to get into people,
brainwashing.
Yeah. Maybe not that harsh, but you're trying to get people to have a positive view of you, and that can have a massive difference as to whether somebody's going to sign up or not. So I've known clients that have done big work on what their environment is in their venue, where are parents sitting, where are the kids getting changed, what's happening. All those small things are making a big difference to roll up into something much nicer. So when you are having that lead process, it helps to just kind of pull it all together and mean that somebody is going to have a nice experience. Then ultimately it makes your sale easier. If they've already effectively decided they want to be there, it's a lot easier for you to turn around then and then get them to sign up, because they've already had all the information they need, and it's kind of it's a foregone conclusion that they're going.
And Vic, when you talk about consistency,
Hmm.
what does that look like from a practical perspective? What do you mean by that? Do you mean constantly running an advert on Facebook, or is it more than that?
So it's having something going at all points, I would say. So I see a lot of clients will come to me and go, oh, I've just ran a Facebook ad for 3 weeks and I had this massive spike of people and X amount signed up and now it's gone quiet. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're just doing this one thing to push it through. And the likes of sort of Facebook, and I'll talk in a minute a little bit about PPC, the likes of Google and Facebook and Instagram and things like that, you're almost rewarded for loyalty. So if you are an account that's regularly posting something, even if it's just a lower level campaign, so I'm not talking about you need to be spending hundreds of pounds a month. It could just be something low level that's ticking over. It then means when you get to, we're about to come into January, if you've been advertising throughout the year, your ad account's going to be in a really, really healthy place. So then when you start to put more money, because you want to do a boost for January and everybody that's looking for new classes and new activities at that point, your ads are going to be favoured over somebody else's. Whereas if somebody hasn't posted for the last 4 months and then suddenly come in and go, I'm going to put all of my effort behind this, you're not going to have the impact.
So does that actually affect Facebook algorithms? If you've been marketing throughout the year, your adverts will be viewed favourably over someone who hasn't.
Yeah, so there's the concept of it that there's the health of your account and lots of things play into that. So the quality of the ads that you're posting, how many people are clicking on them, if people are liking them, reacting to them, commenting on them, all of that plays into the health of it. And one of those things that plays into that is the consistency with which you're marketing and what you're doing, because effectively Facebook's aim is, one, to get your money, but its main aim is that it wants people to stay on Facebook. So how does Facebook get people to stay on Facebook? They put content on there that people are going to be interested in. So therefore, if you're putting good ads out and you're putting good content out, so this is where your organic stuff plays in as well. What you're doing organically can play into how well your ads work.
Does that contribute to health?
Yeah. So that organic stuff contributes as well. It's all rolling up to where you get placed, because Facebook wants something in someone's timeline that's going to keep them scrolling, rather than going, on board now, I'm going to go off and do whatever. Because they want you to stay on, because then that shows them more ads, which gets Facebook more money, and we go round and round in a big circle.
Right.
So it's all about making sure that you are favoured, because when it comes to advertising, and whether that's Facebook, Instagram, PPC, whatever it is, you're competing for space. You're competing against other like martial arts schools, but you're also competing against anybody in your local area. So the majority of clients we have are local businesses, and even if it's large national franchises, you're still going to have your marketing targeted to an area. So you're not just competing against the other martial arts, the other side of town, you're competing against the restaurant down the road and the barbers that's running an offer, because you're just competing for that space on someone's timeline. So building that health, and that's why I say this consistency of organic posting regularly and running ads, and you don't have to do it 100% of the time, like budgets and obviously come into it, but not just having this humongous peak at one time of year can really, really help.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Is it right that the cost per lead also varies dramatically at different times, when either the market is hot or the market is cold?
Yeah.
And what has always surprised me is when I see people actually cutting their advertising off when they believe the market is cold, whereas the cost is low, and you probably should be putting more money in at that time to keep that consistent level of student acquisition. And so often you'll see, oh, well, market's hot, I'm going to save that money, and that may be the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely always worth putting a boost in at those hot times, but like you say, when it's colder, that's almost the time when you've got the chance. So there's always people going to be looking. Yes, there's more at those peak times, but there's always a level of people looking, or even if we're talking Facebook, not necessarily mindfully looking, but can be convinced by an ad to try martial arts or check your club out. So yeah, like Gerard says, it's cheaper at those times, and it also lessens your pressure. So say over the year you want to get 50, 100 students to grow. If you don't do any marketing other than those 2 peak times, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to be like, right, well, these are the 2 peak times that I'm going to advertise. So I need to get 25, 30, 40 students in each of those times. Whereas if you're more consistent, okay, yeah, so those colder times, you only get 5 in the month or 10 in the month. But that takes the pressure off of those big peaks. And it also makes it easier for you. If you're getting somebody in, obviously the earlier you get somebody in, the more you're getting out of them in the long term, the more you build their loyalty, the more time you've got. So say you got somebody that joined you in October, you've already got a few months with them. So then when they're hit with lots of advertising for loads of activities in January, it's not the which one am I going to pick, it's, oh, I'm already sorted, so I don't need to think about that.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of swap.
Well, there is a client on this very webinar, and we will hear more from him in January, who is literally flipping the market and proving that spending money in cold times, literally and digitally, absolutely works and brings massive results. So keeping your eye on
Get a lot more for your
lately
money.
what I've heard quite a bit of is we're generating the leads, they're booking, but then not turning up. And I know there's a certain area of automation in our systems which reminds them about their lesson through text message and so on. But there's so much more you can do, and we've been advising that over time, haven't we?
Definitely.
I think you mentioned earlier about the video, and this is not some big production. This is just has to be kept simple, doesn't it?
And it actually works better if it's not some huge production, because it feels personal. So you can very easily record a video that's maybe just on your phone, and the way you word it sounds like it's just been done just for them. You've just gone out that morning to film this video because you know they're coming later on. Whereas actually you send that to every single person that books a trial, because as long as you don't mention them by name, you can reuse that video over and over again. And it's the additional engagement that people get. Like, as I said, people's minds are busy, everything's very, very hectic. So having that additional reminder and having that positive opinion, because it's like, say somebody's booked a trial a week ahead and then they hear nothing from you. When they go to that trial, it's just, oh, this is this thing that I've booked. Whereas maybe they had a nice video for you, or somebody's giving them a call and go, oh, we're really looking forward to you coming. Suddenly it's like, oh, I've got a nice feeling about that. And I think people underestimate the power of that nice feeling. And I would say, kind of think of your own lives, and when was the last thing you did, like, I don't know, maybe you've just had some work done on the house or something like that. Did you just purely pick who you picked because you saw an advert and then you booked them for a quote and then they did it? No, probably it was how he acted or she acted when they came round, and how they spoke to you and what they followed up with, and that all plays into it. And it's the same with our industry as well. It's the same across marketing.
I think I was listening to yesterday when we were having a discussion with clients, was when they don't turn up, you know, people are saying, oh, well, can we do a missed you in class message? Can we automate it? Can we do these sorts of things? And the one thing that struck me there, you know, talking to people about you missed your appointments, is really in the accusative. And I don't think people take kindly to that, but there would be nothing wrong in flipping that to say, I'm real sorry you couldn't make it. And by the way, I've booked you an alternative. If that's not convenient for you, make the assumption that they do want to come and book it for them. They may see that as service. And it's like me, I missed a dental appointment not so long ago because I got caught in traffic.
And how bad did you feel when you missed it?
And
how guilty when you had to ring back up and go, oh, I'm really sorry, I missed my appointment.
Exactly.
You had to go to the dentist, so you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't, you might just go, oh, this is really embarrassing, I missed it, I'm not going to go. And you don't know why someone's missed it.
And you have to recognise that people are living busy lives, and maybe going to a martial arts intro with their child, maybe not at the top of their agenda, and they're genuinely accidentally missed the appointment.
Or
So
something
just make
happened
it as
and-
easy and warm and as easy as possible for them to
100%.
rebook. In fact, I would suggest do it for them and just say, I've done this. If that's not convenient for you, give me a call and we'll change it.
I've seen a couple of clients, a couple of which I can see are on the webinar, that have done that and have flipped that thing in, and then instead of it being, oh, they didn't turn up, they weren't interested, they're cold lead,
Yeah.
actually giving them a call, or like you say, rebooking or something like that, and they actually tend to be the ones, if they are truly interested. I mean, you are always going to get the person that books and doesn't turn up. It's why you get people in restaurants with empty tables and things like that. Like it's going to happen. But the ones that you then reach out to, and maybe you find the reason for it, and maybe the reason is that their other child was sick. So then you build the rapport. Oh, well, I hope they're feeling better soon. As soon, like once they're better, if you can book them in, all that sort of stuff. It just continues to build that rapport, which then makes the conversion so much easier.
Don't use the word missed. Missed. You might be, you're sorry that their life has taken over. You know, find a different set of words to describe it and make that customer, that potential customer, feel really comfortable. And if you feel confident enough, just rebook them another time and tell them, I've done that for you.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to a client a couple of weeks ago, actually. We were talking about that conversion video, and they did something because they were saying, well, I don't really want to send a generic one to everyone. I want to send one that's a bit more personal. And he actually he took one video which does go to everyone. It says, oh, hey, future black belt. So it sounds like they're being funny. It sounds like it is personal, but they're just making a joke of being a future black belt. And he said that worked really well.
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
Add your personality into it. People buy from people. That is it at the end of the day. People buy from you. You are running your business. It's they can go and get the skills from various places. So therefore it's you that they're buying from. So we've got some great people with some great personalities, so make sure you're showing it.
I do think it is important to get in control of that process and stand in the customer's shoes. And also to make sure that you use the systems. So we've created this system which gives you the complete journey. And a key part of that is attendance. And if you don't take attendance, you can't manage your statistics. You can't see what your conversion rates are. You can't look at the process critically and say, where am I going wrong here? Where is the process going wrong? Is it that people are not turning up? Is it people do turn up and then they don't sign up and convert? Is it just where in that journey have I got something that I need to reconsider? It's crucial. If you don't use the system, a prospect system, you've got no chance of being able to examine that.
And that prospect system, obviously we've done a big redesign of it this year, so it's been changed to make that as easy as possible for you. So they can drop in through automations, they can then move through the different stages, you can be communicating with them at any point, adding tasks. So I know a lot of people will have somebody that's running the admin side for their club, so you can add tasks to that person to say, oh, they didn't come to class last night, can you give them a call to get them rebooked in? And that can show. So we've done a lot with that prospect system to help to automate things and make things a bit smoother, so that you can also keep track of where people are as well, and make sure you're not losing somebody purely because you didn't realise they hadn't turned up or didn't realise that they hadn't booked their trial yet, even though they had shown an interest.
And look, we're about to hit what has been in the last 2 years the biggest quarter of the year in terms of demand. So make the most of it, do all those things. And actually, here's the thing I noticed from last year. Quite a lot of people did not hit the boards running. They didn't have their plans already made out for their marketing campaign for January. And it took some time for people to crank up, as it were, in January. And February was the bigger month. Historically, people used to hit the boards running. Both January and February were massive by comparison. So hitting the boards running, I know by the time the turkey's gone down and all the other stuff, I know it's difficult, but it is really important to strike while the iron's hot.
I think it's also as well not to something I've realised with clients a little bit this year is that there's sometimes this notion of, oh, I've missed the boat. It's getting towards the end of December now. It's too late for me to. I've not planned January. I've not done it. I'll look at it January into February. It'll be fine. Like actually just getting a bit of something out there, and just anything that you do can help to boost it. So you don't need to be coming up with this humongous campaign that sits across all platforms, and you've got multiple Facebook ads going out and loads of leaflets and this, that, and the other. Just get the Facebook
do
ads
it.
done. Like we've got the materials on the marketing toolkit for anybody that's a Nest client. There's ready-made things and campaigns and information on how to do your targeting and things. Just give it a go and try. I think sometimes it's a little bit of the fear of getting started, or this thought of actually I need to have everything together and ready to get going. It's not. Just give something a go and try and see what happens.
Yeah.
I think if there's any message, is set your goals for this first quarter and hit the boards running.
Yeah.
And keep up that marketing
Yeah.
activity.
Keep the momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. Really useful. Yeah, really, really helpful. I just 1 second. Let's just have a little note down. I think we've got oh, Elliot, my mouse. Where's my mouse gone?
It got to be over here. There we go.
Three little witches around a pot. With the prospect system, it would be really good to be able to set up automations using text messages also. Yeah, absolutely, Tim. We are working on that. We know it's really important. And watch this space, I would say. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the things that have gone well this year, observations that we've seen. Let's talk a bit, because I think part of planning for 2025 is to understand what didn't go so well throughout the year and make sure that we eliminate those from next year's plans. So, I mean, both of you, if we start with you, Victoria, from working with clients, I know we had quite an issue with Facebook this year. Lots of people's accounts were being blocked, and is that something that we think has reduced?
So I think there's definitely been, there has been a lot of people that have had issues with Facebook accounts, and hacking of Facebook accounts is becoming really, really common, unfortunately. So little quick plug from me: if you haven't got two-factor authentication set up on your Facebook accounts, make sure you have your bank details, your card details are stored in there. If you've just got a really old password that you've not changed in years, that you use in multiple places, I mean, we've seen people that have had thousands of pounds taken, and it's a painful process to get back from Facebook. A lot of clients I've spent many hours trying to be on the phone to Facebook and going round and round in circles and getting that help. I think because it's the volume of the problem, it's not working there. So I would definitely say make sure those accounts are secured. Make sure you know all of your passwords to all of the accounts that are linked to your Facebook, because that can be the thing that stops you having that issue of people being hacked. So I've seen instances of where somebody knows it's happening because somebody's in the account and is doing something, but they don't know the password of the other account that's got access to that ads account, so they can't stop it.
Gosh.
Because they don't know what that password is, because it's one they set up 10 years ago. So do a little bit of account admin and make sure you've got all your passwords are really secure, you've got everything locked down, you've got the two-factor authentication in, and that should help with that. So yeah, that's just my little safety announcement.
I suspect you
Really
give
important.
guidance on how to set passwords and what characters.
Yeah, just make sure you're using all of the kind of standard stuff. No
Facebook have that built in anyway, don't they?
Yeah, no common words. But I mean, I know I've seen, obviously a lot of people would have set Facebook passwords up 15, 20 years ago, and that wasn't a thing there. So if your password is password, Facebook would have let you do that years ago, but it won't do now. So making sure you're following all that, and having the different characters, the numbers, the words people are going to guess, that sort of stuff.
And I suppose another message is don't share it. I noticed even with us with MyMA, there are people who share passwords. It's really bad practice and dangerous.
Yeah, with Facebook and things, it's very easy to set another account up that then has access to your ads account. You can have multiple people having access to it.
We can with
and keeping that all secure.
Separate logins.
Separate logins. So it just helps with that security side of it. But yeah, also going away from the security side of it, definitely have seen that the conversion, I'm going to say quality on Facebook has dropped, because I've seen some people see quantity drop, but I've seen more people see quality drop.
Oh, interesting.
So the number of people that are clicking, but then also getting lots of clicks but nobody's booking in, or the people that do book in are the people that then don't turn up, you can't get hold of them, or you get details through a lead form and having phone calls and people are like, I don't know what this is, what is it that I've signed up for? And I think it's because we're in that notion of people are spending hours on their phone scrolling. Facebook's making it easier and easier to respond to an ad. So lead forms, a lot of it is pre-filled. So
The
with all
autofill stuff.
autofill stuff. So if somebody's scrolling on their phone in bed at 11 o'clock at night and they're not really thinking and they see something and it looks vaguely interesting and all they need to do is make 2 taps and that's effectively sent a lead form off to you, which you've paid for because Facebook's charging you every time you get that result. They can't remember they've done it.
Mhm.
They're not really sure what it was, but they weren't that interested. So in terms of lead forms and things, even just putting an extra question on that's maybe like, what day are you available? Or how, if it's an ad targeting parents for children's classes, what age is your child? Still, it's useful information for you to have. It's useful information to have when you contact them, but it also breaks that brain cycle a little bit because you don't want to be paying for people that are never going to convert anyway.
That's interesting because up until now we've heard clients say I want to reduce the sales barrier by putting less questions in because we don't want people to get bored in filling it out and then just discard it. But you're actually saying that having less questions that creates less qualified leads. And actually you should put a few more in just to make sure that that person genuinely is interested about.
And by all means, I'm not talking about making reams of questions and putting 5 or 6 or 7 questions there. Just the odd one
That's not autofilled.
that isn't auto-filled can help. And it's that age-old quantity versus quality debate, right? And sometimes the quantity is good and you want that number and that volume and you can be putting them into a mailing list and setting up automations that try to warm them up. But we've had lots of discussions on various webinars through the years about the concept of marketing funnels, and it's fine that people are dropping in at that top bit just at awareness, but they're not going to convert at the bottom really, really quickly. So if that's what you're wanting is the conversions, it's making sure that you're setting your process up to get people where you need them to be. And I think that kind of quite handily leads on to the concept of PPC and Google Ads, which we're seeing work for people a lot better this year than I, to be honest, have ever seen in the past. So the main concept around that is the fact that I think why it's working is because when people are on Google, they're actually searching. So when you're on Facebook, increasingly, because Facebook advertising, there's more and more and more ad accounts being opened up. I don't know the exact stats, but there's hundreds of thousands of Facebook ad accounts. So therefore that's lots and lots of ads that are in there. So you're just trying to stop the scroll and people aren't necessarily looking. They're just on Facebook for a bit of social media and a bit of kind of a brain break or whatever. Whereas with a Google, people are actually searching martial arts in my area. And if you're then appearing at the top, they're already further down that funnel and there's already the intent there. So you've broken through that. Well, you haven't broken through that barrier because there just wasn't that barrier because they already know that that's what they want. So that's kind of where the benefit of PPC comes in, is that you are targeting somebody that's already looking. And I also think PPC probably isn't as popular within our industry at the moment as Facebook is. So if you're coming in now, you're almost potentially coming in as a bit of an early adopter, and you might find that nobody else in your area is doing that. Elliot's waving at me that we have a question. So I'll let me have a quick look. So somebody's saying, regarding the lead forms, frequently get existing parents of our children using the lead forms, and when I ask them why they completed them, they get very flustered. So agree, there's a lot of scrolling later. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the problem, is that they just see something and maybe they recognize it and then they click on it and they go through, and it's a lot of that. Just social media does something strange to our minds. You sort of lose your concentration properly and you're in a different world. So there's always the way that you can do that, and you can be converting those people and warming them up over time. But if you're wanting people to book for trials and come and convert, that's where the PPC can come in, because you're targeting people that are already searching for you and they're already looking for what you're providing.
So I guess that takes us nicely into recommendations for next year. Obviously you said, and I know because we have done a lot of advertising through Get Into Martial Arts, which most of you guys will be part of. For those on here that aren't with Nest, it's a directory that we have for our clients to advertise their lessons. We found PPC to be much more effective than Facebook, haven't we? Particularly because they, as you say, they're looking for us.
Yeah.
They're not just doom scrolling and finding us.
Yeah.
So would that be one of your recommendations?
Yeah, definitely. Like look into PPC if you're not doing it at the moment. It can be a bit of a mind shift to get into that kind of PPC mindset, because with Facebook, what you can do is you can quite often get an awful lot of results very cheaply. But I would say do some analysis on what you're getting in Facebook ads. And I'm not saying we need to ditch Facebook ads. And it's probably working really, really well for a lot of people. And I'm not saying let's move away from that.
But it's consistency, isn't it?
consistency,
Doing
and
everything.
And it's about seeing how well it's working for you. And it might be that we're seeing more of a move now that the people that you get through Facebook are the ones that maybe take a little bit longer to work through that process. And you need to warm them up with an automation process, or it might take a couple of contacts from them or SMSs or a phone call or whatever to convert them. Whereas PPC can provide that more immediate conversion. And they say that can sometimes look a little bit more expensive. But again, it's the quantity quality balance.
Yeah.
So there isn't a do 60% of this and 40% of that or whatever. It's about you finding trial and error.
It's having a marketing mix, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was talking to clients the other day who are still using, in lots of places, contact with schools, still using leaflets within schools, still doing a whole range of work in local schools to promote their schools and to give some benefits to schools as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of the PE department. So there's still a lot of that going on
100%.
in your mix. So, and I would call that more community marketing.
Yeah, and it is, it's having that little bit of everything. And I'm really sorry that I can't sit here and go run this singular PPC campaign and I guarantee you will get X number of clients a month. I wish I could, but marketing is not that simple, unfortunately. So it is about the different avenues, and the average sort of thing is that people need to have around 7 touch points with something before they see. So it's that thing that makes you convert and makes you take the final step. And that could be, they've seen your Facebook ads and they got a leaflet in their child's book bag a couple of weeks ago, so they recognize your branding, and then a friend says that they take their child there and they really, really like it. And that's the thing that then makes them do a Google search, and they can't remember what your name is really, but they'll Google martial arts in whatever location they are, and bang, your ad's the one that sits at the top, and they go, oh, that's the one. Click through. So you'll never know that those other points have happened beforehand, but that's why the one won't work just on its own, why you need that mix of stuff, because you need to be forefront in people's mind, and because there are so many options and just stuff in general going on in people's lives. Like, we all know how busy our brains are, particularly at this time of year. Like, breaking through that noise is really, really difficult. So it sometimes takes a few kind of cracks at it to get through.
Where you guys are really lucky, because being community based, being locally based, you've got so much more potential to create awareness and desirability of your product than, for example, we do, because we're national. So we don't get that opportunity to create all these different touch points, because we work all over the UK, which you guys can really focalize it in and concentrate your marketing budget on that, which is great. Gerard, I mean, Victoria's spoken quite a lot about marketing learnings that we've got from this year. In terms of, you were talking about starting off the year, making sure that your first quarter of next year is solid, you've got plans in place, because every student you take on in January is going to be income potentially that comes in for the rest of 2025. So what can our guys do to really make that happen? What kind of mindset planning?
Do you know what? I think the very first thing, I was with somebody yesterday and we were all talking about that whole Chinese thing of the, journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And I was saying to them, I don't believe it does. And one of our clients wrote a book and made this comment in it a while ago. The first step is to making your mind up to take that first step.
Yeah.
And I think making that decision to get in control yourself is the first step. And for me, part of that, you'd be surprised if I said anything different, but for me, that is setting a set of goals. What are your intentions to do? We'll make goals sound really complicated, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's just going, for crying out loud, this is what I want to do in January, February and March. The market's hot. I've got some goals for marketing. I've got some goals for new students. How do I put those two things together to get those new students, or to start with, the leads?
Yeah.
And then how do I convert them and so on? But the big starting point is to say to yourself, what did I do last year? What did I do at this time? Do I want to replicate that? I would suggest not. You want to do better than you did last year. All businesses suffer from the point of view of their costs continually rising. So whichever way you do cut it, you've got to continue to increase the finances within the organization. So saying, if I did X last year, I want to do X plus this year in that first quarter, and then keep that going. We've provided tools. Very few people use the budgeting type tools. On the downloads, it's actually referred to as the planning tool. And it's there in the website section, I think, the web tools. And it's relatively straightforward. I've been restricted from putting a new one out because I'm told that I've made it way too complicated for any reasonable person. But the one that's on there is real simple. How many students do I want to get every month? It automatically deals with seasonal variation and all the other things and works out your leads for you, which ought to be part of your marketing plan. So for me, the very first thing is in your strategy is to think, how many students do I want to end up with? What have I got capacity for? But it all starts to sound complex. It's not meant to be. How many students do I have in a lesson? How many lessons do I have? Do people come twice a week? The mathematics is relatively straightforward. But having that goal, be it I want to take on 10 new ones a month, or I want to take 50 new ones a month. And, you know where you are. The tool will allow you to know that at the end of the year, with an attrition rate of X, this will be your growth. It's relatively straightforward. And I would start with that, just deciding that you're going to go, yes, this is what I want. And I did speak to somebody recently who said, oh, look, I just want to grow a bit every month. And that is fine. But grow a bit every month is a bit of a desire, not a goal. And you also then can't calculate grow a bit every month in terms of what your finances currently are and what free cash flow you would have at the end of the day. So I would say put actual numbers on where you want to get to. I think that's really important. And in your strategy, watch out for your own fears as well. What I have noticed in the last 2 years is a propensity for people to suspend students at certain times during the year. Now, they must be asking for that. And at the worst point, we probably have a couple of thousand suspended. And people have kind of forgot what we said years and years ago about when you calculate the price, it's worked on we ask you to work it on the basis of a 48-week year, because somebody's going to be off for a couple of weeks at Christmas, off for a couple of weeks in the summer. Some do more. Some schools work on a 46-week basis, and they simply take the lesson price and calculate it backwards to create the monthly price. But this idea of suspensions when somebody goes on holiday for 2 weeks is a bit bizarre to us, but we've noticed it growing. There's nothing wrong with offering people makeup lessons, so you can keep up with the program, because you're working in most cases gradings every quarter, and people have got to keep up with the program so that they can make those gradings and be successful at the gradings. So makeup lessons is a great way to deal with that, rather than suspending people and then getting them re-going again. We think there's a real message in that, but we have noticed that propensity to grow. But many clubs do not do it. And so the evidence there is you don't have to do it. So I would put that in. First of all, get your goals. Keep a real eye on things like attrition rates and conversion rates, because that tells you when something is going awry. If your attrition rate climbs dramatically, don't just say it's the market. Take an inward look at what's happening with your service, with the students. Have a look if you're taking attendance, so that you can then determine that certain people are not coming. That's a sign that somebody's going to quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you don't take attendance, you won't, in a school of any size, you won't miss certain students. You need a system to help you and say they've not attended, and deal with it properly. Contact them, say we've missed you in class, we can do some makeup classes, we can do other things to keep you up to speed. So but what Louisa said here was the people you sign up in that first quarter, a large proportion of those people will be with you for the rest of the year and probably years to come. And therefore, if you're looking at your finances in a 12-month period, you've got the opportunity for 9 to 12 payments during that year. That makes a big difference to your finance in that particular year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't mean you slow down for the rest of the year. It means you do the same all the way through the year, but they are, in terms of value to your business in a finite year, it's pretty crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. What you said before as well was really important. It made me remember we were chatting about this earlier. There is a fear with some of our clients that elements of the business are out of their control, and it comes back to this concept of who steers the ship. Is it you as a business owner, or is it the market? And sometimes it feels, when we speak to clients, everything's just gone dead. It's Christmas now, everything's just dead, so we just won't do anything. And there's not a lack of realization, because it's learned behavior over the years, but actually what you do, what you input, creates the output. And you might need a bit more input at different times when the market slows down, but you will still get the output if you put the input in. And I think that's something we've learned a lot this year as well, that that there sometimes is a high desire to learn, but less desire to implement. And that's probably not true for the people that are on this webinar, otherwise they wouldn't be on this webinar. But there's definitely a propensity to feel like someone else is in control of it, and you just go with the flow. But actually you are entirely in control of it. And Dan has put here that he wants to double the business by the end of 2025. I mean, God, if that's not an ambitious, brilliant goal, then what is? All about mindset and understand that you are in control of it.
I think it's that notion of spinning plates as well.
What's interesting about that, it's not hugely difficult to calculate. If Dan wants to double his business, presumably he'll want to not do all that by price increases, he'll want to do it by increased students. And therefore you can calculate how many you need every month, how many leads you need every month, what marketing you need to apply to make that happen. And that is really important, because you can measure it month on month, and you can take action when things are not working out as you planned, because if I wanted 20 students and I've only got 15 this month, where did I go wrong? Was it in the marketing? Will I say, it's only 20 next month, or will I say it's 25 next month, and I catch up with it because I've figured out what's gone wrong in my process? Was it the marketing? Was it conversion rates. So was it my sales technique? Did I overpromise and underdeliver and all that sort of stuff? So having that goal for me is hugely important if you want to be
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
I think it's just being aware of the position you're in at
Yeah,
the moment.
yeah.
So I said a second ago about spinning plates. It's that thing of, yeah, you can put all of your time and energy into your marketing to get you leads. And that's great, and that's really important. Oh, I want to grow, so I'm going to get more leads. But it's also remembering that there's an element of your marketing and the running of your school as well that is about the retention and is about what your current students are doing and what they're getting up to. So I spoke to a client earlier in the year, and we were looking at their figures and we were going through everything. And we suddenly had this realization that they had spent thousands of pounds over the year. Like it was a lot of money. It was a big investment into Facebook ads and PPC and everything around that, building relationship with schools, leafleting, everything. They'd done a little bit of everything, and they had what on the face of it was a really, really good marketing mix for getting new leads, and they got a good conversion rate, but they'd ignored that attrition rate. And actually they got to the end of a 12-month period, and it wasn't year to year, but we did month to month on a year, and realised that within that time they'd spent all this money, they were actually only about, I think it was 7 or 8 students up on where they were at this time last year, because they were bringing 5, 10, 15 students a month in, which was great, but they were losing a similar amount. So that experience and that marketing that you're doing to your current clients and your current students, is that's just as important, because I mean, if I've not said it once, Gerard said it, Lou said it, I know it's the leaky bucket. If you're chucking them in the top but they're falling out the bottom, it's not going to work. So that part of that goal setting and part of that planning for next year needs to be around having a sure footing that you sit in and say it's spinning those plates. It's
one of the
doing a
keys
bit of
for
marketing,
me,
doing a bit on the current stuff.
I believe that when you've really got that marketing locked down and you're getting the students and all the rest of it, it is this idea that there is a possibility that 30% of the people who leave do so in the first 12 weeks. And that's the hole in the bucket you've got to do. Why? Because it takes about 12 weeks for people to create a habit of coming to training. So if during those 12 weeks they're missing classes and you're not doing missed you in class messages or picking the phone up or doing something, A, it shows you don't care about them, and B, they will end up in that 30% group. And all the work is that you've done is for naught.
And the danger you've got with local businesses as well is that you can't, obviously there's always going to be more children being born and people coming in, but you've almost got a little bit of a finite pool. So if you keep pulling people that are interested in, but then they come for 3, 4, 5 weeks and then drop off, you're not going to be able to pull them back in again in 6 months' time. I mean, some of them you might, but it's unlikely. If they've been and then left, you don't get huge numbers that will return, other than, people that have been long standing for years and there's been a reason they've left. Like, that's a different ball game. But a new lead that you get through, convert, and then they leave a few weeks later, getting them back is very difficult. So it's about that. You want a school full of loyal people that are there, because at the end of the day, if you filled the capacity of your school and you've got loads of people referring friends and people want to come in, you don't have to spend any money on marketing. You're kind of done. You're expanding your school at that point. So that's the ideal. And I think sometimes people maybe look at it through a different lens in terms of it's just the leads. That's the most important thing. Actually, the leads is your way to get the students, and the students are the important. You want to be growing that number, because if you're getting leads in and they're dropping out the bottom, it's expensive and it's time consuming and it's hard work, because how much time and effort that you put into that person that comes into a trial, and you have to do the talk with them and explain everything to them and do the calls, and the admin person has to get them signed up, and it's all
quite exhausting for the clients.
It is. It's exhausting. So you want to get that you've got a good set of students and you're just adding to that.
It's the gateway to all the other sales. Because if you're not increasing your student base, you won't be increasing your grading volume and the
Yeah.
money that comes from grading. You won't be increasing your pro shop sales
Yeah.
from all the sales that can come there, whether they're sales for products used in the academy or their sales for products used outside the academy, like the
Yeah.
hoodies and t-shirts and everything else. You won't get the license fees if you're charging license fees on an annual basis. You ain't going to get that. So, and special events and all those other things. The student numbers are the gateway to all those additional sales. And when you start to do the numbers, those sales are huge
can really
in
ramp
terms of the overall
Mm.
sales that you get in the business.
Yeah.
And no winter-based pun intended, but it snowballs. Once you start, I know. I was going to say it, and then I realised what I was saying.
Nice.
Once you get that start of it, and then you've got, like you say, you've got a loyal client base, and you've got loyal students that are coming. So then, yeah, they're spending more in your pro shop. They're regularly coming to gradings. That's giving more revenue. They're really happy. They're enjoying it. So they're referring friends, and they're coming in, and it's building that momentum, and it can sometimes feel really hard to get going, and it can feel very daunting. And I know I speak to a lot of clients that will go, oh, I've took my eye off the ball for the last year, couple of years, however long.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. Can you come up with a whole plan as to how I can turn it around? It's like, yes, but let's work on this over a period of time, because that's why, as I say, terrible pun, but the snowball analogy works really well, because it's that little thing that you start with that you keep adding to and get into it. And if you do one small thing each month, by the end of next year, you've done 12 things. Whereas if you sit at the beginning of the year, or you sit now and you think, oh my God, I've got too much to go, I'll just stay as I am, it's fine. You've not done those 12 things. Whereas you could, it's the making the start, and the more you do it, the more motivated and passionate you get, because you see stuff and you see it working, and it snowballs. Sorry,
Yeah. I think that's a good way to wrap it up, actually, because you're right, we do hear a lot, how do we get new students, and I think everyone on here completely understands the equal balance of retention and getting new students. But I think, as well as goal setting and understanding where you want to be, it's equally as important to understand where you are right now, from a variety of ways, from the reports that you get, whether they're from Nest, wherever they're from, whether they're on a spreadsheet. You need to know where you are right now and understand every part of the journey as you're going through it. I do a lot of work with clients on customer journeys. I think part of the next year, if you're going to make it as successful as possible, is really understand where you are right now and solidify where you are right now. If you go through the process of understanding and you do see any leaks in the process or leaks in the boat, plug them up, just get them fixed straight away right at the start of the year, so that they're not things you have to worry about going through the year. You're spending money on marketing, yeah, because you know that you're bringing them into a solid boat that flies at 100 miles an hour. So that's, if you guys are interested, that's certainly where we're going to spend our time at the first half of 2025. We are really looking at how to solidify what we've got. MyMA, we are replanting the roots of MyMA to make it an even better CRM system, faster, more efficient, more open to modernization and changes moving forward. So we're making sure at the start of next year that the groundwork and the foundations of MyMA are really solid and brilliant and on the most modern technology, to make sure that moving forward we are completely fulfilling your needs. And that again will be a snowball effect. We have a gazillion processes here, don't we? And we have to continually monitor every single one. So if that's something that you guys feel would be helpful to look at your own boats, as it were, and plug up any leaks that there may be, that will also, we're all about the analogies. A boat in a pool of snow that's snowballing out. So, well, listen, you guys have stuck with us for quite a long time, and I would like to say thank you so much for joining us today. For those who have been avid followers of our webinars, like Marie, for example, Tim, thank you for having followed us throughout all of these webinars and for joining us on our final webinar of the year. It's been wonderful to see you, to have your feedback, to get your comments and feedback. Vic, could you just do me a favour and just scroll down in
Yeah.
case there are
Oh,
any
yeah, we've got one more.
messages and
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
on here? Dan has said just need to add as much value as possible to all current students and making them feel included and a part of the martial arts family.
100%.
God, yeah, that's the ethos
Fantastic.
of what
Yeah.
you guys do, and amazing that you guys can provide that to young humans and older humans and better the community. It's a gift. It's an absolute gift. Gerard, any parting comments for the
No, I
year?
think, for the year, again, we've seen growth, as we've mentioned. It's been a good year. It's been a good learning year. It's been a challenge for many people. The economic outlook for the government is fairly limited growth. Martial arts smashes it every time I see the government
Yeah.
numbers. So to that extent, that should buoy us up for the coming year.
Yeah.
I can see things being a great year in 2025. Happens to be our 25th year,
Yes.
2025. We can see a lot of things, but what's really, really important is you guys out there change the lives of young people. You make a real positive impact on your students and on your communities in general. And, you know, we're happy, in fact, overwhelmed sometimes to have the honour to be a part of that with you. So for me, I think the parting shot is have a fantastic Christmas. Do all your preparation before you go and leave for Christmas, and be ready to hit the boards running in January, and that should set you up for a great year. But have a great time. I think we'll have a great 2025, and I wish you all the very best indeed.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you very much. Thank you, Vic, for today,
No
and Merry Christmas to
Yeah, Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Yes,
Have a
Merry
great
Christmas.
A well-deserved break.